Another case of the New World screwworm has been found in the U.S., and that brings the recent total to 5. That's after the threat was annihilated completely in the 1960s. Joining us now for Insight is infection prevention specialist Rayne Guest, founder and CEO of ArrowClean. Great to have you with us this morning, Rayne. Not such a nice topic, but thank you for joining us. It's going to be really interesting to get into this. Let's start with an overall assessment of the threat in the U.S. today.
Yeah, so right now the threat is not large. In Mexico since 2024, we've only had about 28,000 cases, and that's been spread out between cattle, horses, sheep, about 2,000 humans. But when you look at the 40 million herd head that they have down in Mexico, that is less than 1/10% of the actual herd population down there. So the concern is that we'll have another screwworm outbreak in the U.S. like we did back in the 50s and 60s, but we're nowhere near that yet. Our state is taking great precautions right now. Sid Miller is investing in a $750 million facility in Texas to produce sterile flies, which has been historically just wonderful to eradicate the fly problem.
Right, so they just kind of launch them into the air. They breed with any female flies that are screwworm flies out there. And then it just dies down almost immediately, would you say? Or how long does this kind of thing take?
Yeah, it's like birth control. So the flies only mate once. So they go and they mate with a sterile male fly and no offspring is produced. So that's the theory behind it. Yeah. But what happens when the flies, so screwworm is actually not a worm at all. It's a fly that goes and it's attracted to open wounds in animals from branding or castration or dehorning or whatever it may be. And they're attracted to the odor produced by those wounds. They go and they land on the open wound. They lay hundreds of eggs at a time. Those eggs hatch into larvae, and those larvae actually screw into the tissue and feed off of the live tissue in animals. Yeah. So currently, in order to treat it, what you need to do is, treat the animal systematically with something like ivermectin, go in and mechanically remove the screwworm, and then ensure that you provide the animal with really good wound care.
Wonderful. And just looking at prevention here, you've already given some clues in terms of wounds that smell, but what else can ranchers do to really tackle this head on?
Well, yeah, for prevention, and thank you for saying that, because that is what we want to do. So I would like to see herds getting chipped instead of branded, because when you brand animals, that actually leaves a huge wound for flies to be attracted to. Let's start dehorning them when they're younger so we have smaller wounds there. Let's castrate in the off season so that when flies aren't as relevant. So there are things that you can do. You can also keep the facilities, the barn facilities, extremely clean with different disinfectants that work better and faster. I like hypochlorous acid because it's actually what our white blood cells produce to fight pathogens, and you can use this in barns and chutes and whatnot when animals are actually there. And hypochlorous acid can actually be used for wound care as well. It helps promote wound healing because our body actually recognizes it's what our white blood cells produce to fight pathogens. So those would be some good preventative measures.
Excellent. It sounds like some of these solutions are things that farmers and ranchers may already have on hand. But let's look at the potential to impact beef prices. Do you see anything on that front?
Yeah, it will potentially, if it becomes a huge problem with an outbreak and farmers are having to move their cattle differently and do different things with surveillance, of course, prices will go up because they're going to have to use more labor. But right now, the beef prices being high are more to do with we have the lowest herds that we've had in a long time. The import of beef from Mexico has been disrupted from the screwworm down there. Gas prices are up. There's a lot of factors right now affecting beef prices, and screwworm really isn't a huge factor in that right now. And hopefully it won't be, because there are things that we can do to prevent this from really taking hold in the U.S.
And let's just look here. The USDA says this is not a food safety issue. The beef that is out there will continue to be safe to eat. Could you just explain, if there is indeed screwworm still around, how people can understand that?
Well, as far as it being a food safety issue, if you ingest screwworm, let's just say there is a screwworm in your steak and you do ingest it, your stomach acid is probably going to kill it. It's not the most appetizing thing to think about. Yeah. But it's not going to go in your gut.
Well, that's That's a calming thought, actually, and in terms, because it can impact humans. These screwworms can infest human flesh, but what makes that such a low likelihood?
Well, we know if there's flies buzzing around us and on our skin. But there have been 2,000 cases in South America where they have infested humans. And I can understand, a lot of people have diabetic ulcers and neuropathy where they don't actually have good sensation in their legs and their feet. So there are unfortunately, we do have wounds that those flies could infest, but we have great healthcare in America. If something happens and you go to the hospital, it wouldn't turn into a life-threatening issue if you found it early on. Again, you can go in and mechanically remove it and then treat the wound.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your time today, Rayne Guest. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.